third part?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's go back to where we were. So the last question, how to help others to become mentally immune. And actually, indeed, it fits very well with this last question. So we've tried to explain what mental immunity is. We said independent thinking, thinking from oneness, from universal love, compassion, understanding, forgiveness. And we also explained a bit about the foundation, a vision of life based on universal starting points like unity and cyclic and karmic law. But a vision of life means nothing really without living that vision, according to that vision. Now, how can you make that more concrete? Well, actually at the start of our season this year, of our lecture season, we always start with a symposium. And this year we presented about the 7 virtues. 7 virtues linked to 7 laws of nature, also known as the 7 jewels of wisdom in the Theosophical literature. And of course I won't repeat what we have presented. I can of course recommend everyone to watch the recordings of the symposium on our website if you haven't followed it yet. But I mainly show this because I think it is a picture of an ideal human being. And these 7 virtues are also known as 7 perfections, and they show mental characteristics that are admired by everyone in all kinds of traditions. You can find them around the whole world. And also they are, I think, virtues that everyone can recognize and also everyone can put into practice to a greater or lesser extent. And think also about these rules of contagion, the reproduction formula equals dots. And our responsibility of spreading universal thoughts. Now, if we focus on these kind of really universal virtues, trying to bring them into practice, then we have a really safe way also to inspire others. Now, the importance of virtues such as these is also confirmed by research in positive psychology. There have been 2 psychologists, Peterson and Seligman, Chris Peterson and Martin Seligman, that came up with this model, including 6 main character strengths, and it shows characteristics that lie at the origin of mental resilience or mental immunity. And they published this actually as a counterpart to the famous DSM manual, or the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual of Mental Disorders, a manual that classifies mental disorders according to certain symptoms. I think this counterpart for that manual, that DSM manual, and more on a positive side, that is very welcome. And because the use of that DSM becomes more and more controversial, labeling someone with a mental disorder can also have a very negative impact. An impact that is also studied and known as the reverse of the placebo effect, called the nocebo effect. And it, in short, is the effect that when you imagine that you have a disease, or that you have a big fear for having a disease, it actually can also work out as an actual disease. That really can make people sick with all the symptoms of a normal disease. So, it is the question if it is so wise to label people with certain diseases. And there is also a saying that diseases really don't exist, only people that suffer from diseases. And in psychology, also, each patient is treated as an individual. And it is far better to look then at the possibilities of a certain individual instead of at the defects of someone. And also thinking about caring for your thoughts and the attention and energy with which you are feeding your thoughts. And that can better be directed towards the positive side. Now going back to these 7 paramitas or virtues, now they apply to both those who suffer from disease, but also to those who care, the caregivers. Actually, all 7 are essential for dealing properly with illness, dealing properly with, you could say, any condition in life. And I especially want to elaborate the first petal of this flower if we talk about the virtue of Dãna. Now, Dãna is a Sanskrit word which can be translated as love, immortal, and it is also linked to the law of cyclicity or re-embodiment. Now, why is love brought into relation with immortality or re-embodiment? You could say because the origin of love is in the above personal, immortal part of our being. It stems from our imperishable part and the corresponding aspect of thinking, the sense of unity. Now, love, you could say, is essentially the desire for immortality, the desire for unity. And real love is also directed towards the immortal or reincarnating part of others. Now, care is to be seen as an expression of Dãna, of immortal love. It is a natural expression of the sense of unity, of compassion, directed at the immortal part of the other. And personal love or care is only a limited derivative of this. Instead, universal love doesn't depend on sympathy or antipathy for a certain person or being. It recognizes the oneness with all others, sees in every being the immortal and boundless origin, that origin which is the same in you as in me as in every other life. And it is this universal love, you could say, that is the key to immunity. I will read you another quote from the Peruker. He says, "A love for all beings and things, both great and small, will form a rampart, a protecting wall about you, so strong and impenetrable that nothing will reach your heart beneath that wall of love." So universal love is the key to immunity. But not only to one's own immunity, it radiates through to others as well. When you actually look at others with love, you never look at a diseased person or a patient. You then really see someone as a human being in his completeness. You recognize his characteristics. You see the potential of who someone in essence really is. A boundless, conscious being trying to express himself. And because you radiate this compassion, because of your trust, your understanding, your forgiveness, because of that person also is inspired to live up to those expectations. This is also known as the Pygmalion-efffect. It comes from the story of Pygmalion, the sculptor who fell in love with his own sculpture. And by the intervention of the gods, the sculpture came to life. It is very metaphorical. It shows the importance of our imagination, that we continuously can make our own thought images a reality, that we are really carving out our own life path. And again, scientific facts confirm this view. This Pygmalion effect is studied and applied a lot in psychotherapy. From studies into all kinds of different therapies, it appeared that the main success factor is the relationship between the therapist and the client. And famous psychotherapists as Viktor Frankl declare that the most important maxim in their field is the following. If we treat people as they are, we make them worse. But if we treat people as what they can be, we help them become what they are capable of becoming. And this effect has also been proved in the field of education, that expectations of teachers are one of the most important predictors to success. And what expectation could be higher if you reason from boundlessness? Then you will always expect and see more in another. Actually, you could say that the Theosophical Society was founded to work on the mental immunity of mankind, with the core idea of universal brotherhood, not as a dogma, but as a fact in nature, based on universal principles. The TS has no dogmas at all, but we encourage everyone to prove for themselves the principles we teach, to discover that all the laws of nature are in line with them, and that you can solve all questions of life on that basis. And that is why one of our mottos is that there is no religion higher than truth. Actually, Theosophy forms the synthesis of science, religion and philosophy, and thus resolves the apparent contradictions between these three domains of thought. Theosophy shows that what is true is also ethical, because there is an essential unity underlying everything that exists. And members continually try to put this into practice, setting an example of an active brotherhood themselves. And it is our conviction that this knowledge should be known much more widely. The figures we gave at the start show the importance. But we all will only proclaim these ideas without dogma, and by trying to be a living example. So if you want to support us, you can of course do so by making a donation, which helps us with costs. But above all, by trying to put this into practice yourself. Do you want to know more and get started? Subscribe to our course Thinking Differently. Do you know others who are curious? Point them to our lectures, to our studies, to our courses, to our books. And in this way we can strengthen each other to contribute to the mental immunity of mankind. Okay, again, a short break and then some room for questions. Okay, welcome back. Do you have any questions?
Yes, we've received one. And this one is more of a check question to check whether he's understood it right.
Yeah.
So, if I understand correctly, caring for someone is actually working hard yourself, and that you can, that you should, that you can only help and inspire someone by being a good example yourself. And with that, mental hygiene is necessary, and in that way you can keep it up and support someone.
Yeah, that is correct. And of course there are situations that also we included that in our definition, that people might not be able anymore to care for their lower parts. We call that the maintenance of the vehicle, and sometimes it is necessary to help people, of course, with that. But we should always try to, and if you look at patients, they all, or maybe from your own experience, if you can do it yourself, you want to do it yourself. And so actually it's also a natural thing, you could also almost call it an instinct, that people want to be in charge themselves. It's really very common. But if we really want to care for the complete man, this part of the mental part is very important. And I think this is also mainly important because, and it's good to address that, more and more people will experience also care for people with old age. Of course, we have in our societies the possibility to reach older ages, but that sometimes also means that we have to care for people with old age who are not anymore able to care good for themselves, and sometimes they also need to be in a how do you call that, a nursing home or something to do it. But then it is especially important to stay in contact on the mental level, and that is something that cannot be done by the professionals. Of course, they are professionals and know how to work well and do it with the absolutely proper motives, but they were not the people who during the incarnation were in touch on this mental level. And those were more the family members or friends, etc. So it's very important to be in this, to remain the social contact. And that is also one, I think, of the successes of these places in like Okinawa in Japan, where people reach a really old age but are still healthy because they are constantly active still in all kinds of social constructs and working together and organizing things together, etc.
We've received another question. There's a lot of fear worldwide, and these mental influences are strong, and it actually even seems to control people. And this whole thing is global, so this is kind of a big thing. Is there a way to overcome these fears, and how could we change this on such a large scale?
Yeah. Well, of course, it works the same way like we discussed. The only thing we really can do is not trying to be yourself one of the multiplying factor, so to say, of this fear, but instead being a multiplying factor for the other side. And I don't completely agree that this is the main thing that we see. Of course, it is something that gets a lot of attention, but I see also much more susceptibility, a growing, increasing susceptibility for other thoughts, for thoughts of unity. This pandemic, for instance, also shows that the interconnectedness with the whole world, the necessary solidarity we need with the whole world to really overcome these situations. And I see that there is a lack of attention to those ideas, but I see it around me, and I see that there are those ideas are also increasing. So I think that that is the important thing. The only thing that we can do is just be an example of focusing not on fear but on love, on the possibilities, on the growth, on the ideals that we can form to overcome this situation in a sustainable way. I almost want to tell you to learn Dutch, because in the 4 lectures that I gave, one was really focused on this global idea of care, and there is also an idea of Plato and the how you could say that the focus that care has in a society, for instance, and he really shows that the society is the way we build society is an expression of the mentality that we have, and what an ideal society could be like, and what mentality should belong to that. Well, it's nothing other really than the virtues that we showed, but then on the level of the society. So I think it's really important to spend our thinking energy towards those ideas.
Yeah, it actually stresses the importance of building up a mental immunity.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That was it.
Okay. Thank you all for your attention, and we end like we always do with the Gayatri from the Rig Veda, a call to our higher self, to the source of this universal love, care, Dãna that is in us. O thou golden sun of most excellent splendor, illumine our hearts and fill our minds, so that we, recognizing our oneness with the divinity which is the heart of the universe, may see the pathway before our feet and tread it to those distant goals of perfection, stimulated by thine own radiant light.